The reason I say that is because I was walking in behind two women and one said, "The bartender is hot." And her friend says, "How hot?" She says, "Hot enough." So that works for this room. I look around, you're a very attractive bunch. You guys look 100% better than the last group I was in front of. Family reunions get ugly quick. So here's a little history. 2 weeks after I first started doing comedy, according to my family, I became a total jerk. I stayed with it. My wife said that I turned into my father, which made for some pretty awkward sex. So I'm trying to sleep with my boss's wife now. I'm self-employed. I'm also trying to work on my fear of drowning, okay? I have this terrible fear of being in a car, submerged, underwater. So, for my self-therapy, every time I go through a car wash, I imagine for the next 3 minutes, I've just driven into a lake. I'm still at the point where, for the whole car wash, I'm screaming at the top of my lungs. But what I've learned is that this fear is very common. Each time I've done it, the person I'm with is just as terrified. Growing up, my dad was an insult comic. He would only do his act for me. And he actually encouraged me to be the class clown after reading Stephen King's It. This is great. You get a lot of people in the audience that read. That's terrific. You go down to West Virginia, you do comedy, all they do is sit there and count their thumbs. So earlier I was at the supermarket helping an elderly woman out of my way. And I noticed she had on these red spike-heeled pumps. Very sexy. Reminded me of a boss I had where after the restaurant would close, would change into heels like that. Walk around and say, "Nothing like a nice pair of heels to firm up that butt." Yeah, he was a weird guy. Trying to be less sensitive. If you've been down at the unemployment office, you might know what I'm talking about. I go down there, the guy gives me a pen that doesn't work. It's kind of ironic. I'm a comedian, and I'm supposed to go to the window and say, "Excuse me, this pen doesn't work." Doesn't work or won't work? So, I was fired from a job once for tipping back in my chair. Thing went out from under me. Huge crash. They said, "Inappropriate behavior for a lifeguard." The whole time I'm falling, it was like in slow motion. So scientists have yet to discover the point at which our underwear goes from clean to dirty. I like to pull the trigger at al dente. Last show somebody said I should send that into Al Roker. I think people with low self-esteem waste a tremendous amount of time at four-way stop signs. Oh, you go, you go. You go. Go. I don't know if you've run into these people. I like going to big sporting events in huge stadiums. It's exhilarating to bring an air horn into the men's room. And when I'm in there, I always check for paper because I don't want to be the guy walking out of the stall with no socks. That can happen. I got into it with my neighbor recently. This guy, he put up, right on my property line, get this, invisible fence. Oh, I was ripped. I got in his face. I said, yeah? You know what I'm going to put up on your property line? A big 12 by 20 invisible shed. Now here's what's happening. I was never really going to do it. I was just going to park the mower on the side of the yard. Make him think. Overnight. Be peeking out the window and his wife, what are you looking at? I'm not sure. My neighbor sounds like that because he's a tool. And then in the fall, he was still peeking out the window. I hired 2 neighborhood kids to paint it. There's $20 worth of entertainment. And then we had that first snowfall. I shoveled the 12 by 20 space in the snow before everyone got up. You get high school age kids, it's very hard to stay relevant in their lives, okay? So I made it a priority, took my family to the beach last summer, picked up my teenage daughter's cell phone, and read a text she sent her friend from our day at the beach. It said, "My dad fails in a bathing suit. Welcome to the land of suck." So I think it's definitely time to hang up the Speedos. Yeah, we got an O from Andrew. That's the seal of approval. So, it's very unusual to see an elderly person with truck nuts hanging on the back of their wheelchair. I got myself a pair, hung them on the rear view mirror, took too sharp a turn, almost teabagged myself. You guys are a fantastic crowd, absolutely a wonderful audience. I'm glad you came out for a great cause. I'd like to introduce your next comedian. My name is Andy Lester. Thank you.